We go. You guys ready? Yep. All right. Check, check, check. I think this thing is working. So welcome to Ableton class to kind of show you guys and us and those who may be watching just how we as Riverpoint do tracks. And so we're going to learn a lot today, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So some of you might have Ableton on your computer. You might not already have it. If you do want it, please let me know later. It could be a thing that could potentially happen. But I'm going to kind of show you kind of one-on-one kind of tracks on how we do it, why we do it a certain way, all that kind of stuff. So I've created, first off, we use Ableton for tracks. There's many different ways to use tracks. Some of you might have heard playback. Some of you might have heard of loop community. Some of you might have heard different other things. But we use Ableton, and this is sort of like our template. So I've created a track template that I can easily give you. I can make it available to download as well somewhere for you to download. But this is kind of like it. So just to kind of go over this really quick. So on the side right here, this guy right here, this is the master list. And so as a template, I kind of got the date. And how I name these is the key dash name, BPMs, and the time. So like below, I have right here, it says the key of C, and then I do a dash, battle belongs. It's 81 space BPMs space 8/8. So what that tells Ableton is that mainly what it does is it tells Ableton what's the tempo of the song. That's all it really does. I mainly name it for just my sake, for whoever's sake, looking at the thing so they know what song is what, if that makes sense. So as your template right here, you would just go all the way down, creating your set list. If you wanted to add another song underneath, it's Command I if you're on Mac, and you can just simply do that to duplicate whichever one you want to do. You can just click on whichever one and duplicate that, but we are not going to do that today, but just for purpose sakes. Over here are where all your tracks are. So first things first, Ableton is built in two different views. The first view is called Session View. And so this right here that you're looking at is called Session View. This right here, at the top right here, I'm going to click this button. You see my mouse right there? You click right here. This is Arrangement View. So some of you might know this from Logic or any other recording thing. Logic kind of starts this way. But this is Arrangement View, and this is Session View. We build our clicks in Session View. Session View is excellent for people who have tracks already arranged in order they want to play a song. So it's great for if you already have tracks, if you have individual things, you can just pull them in here, line them up to your song, and that's how they play. And again, we'll get into more of that here in a minute. So let me talk about our template really quick. So over here on the far left, right there, it's our guide. So that's where all your guides go. This is a click section. So it's an audio track. So I'll tell you the difference between an audio track and a MIDI track. So your audio track, so if I click right here and I insert an audio track, your audio track is going to have this little slide bar. You see that? Your MIDI track is going to have more of like this thing. Does that make sense? The difference between an audio track and a MIDI track. So for example, this right here is all your MIDIs. This kind of tells the computer that there's a song there, there's going to be a MIDI there. And a MIDI is just kind of like a secret note almost, where it's like I can trigger this keyboard to do whatever I want to do based off a MIDI note. I can easily supply a song to a MIDI note to trigger off. That's how we have the keyboard or the drum pad. We trigger each thing, we assign that to a MIDI note, if that makes sense. So we got two audio tracks here. One's for guide, one's for click. Again, the click is there. The click audio track is there more for a custom click. So if one song the tempo is all over the place, I'll use that click track rather than the Ableton click track. Does that make sense? Because perfect song is Oceans. Oceans goes all over the place. So when it gets to that bridge, it starts slowing down like that, and you'll hear it in the tempo track and stuff like that. And I might can play that tonight so you can see that and all that stuff. Right here, this is our first group's tracks right here. So it's the orange, and it's all of our tracks in one, and it's a group. So again, what is a group? It's just kind of like another folder. It's like a folder on a desktop where all your other stuff's in it. It's just think of it like a folder. So you have your tracks group. You have your pads group. So it's a pad in and a pad out. I'll explain that here in a minute. And then you have your EG group. So 1, 2, 3, and then kind of some random audio tracks just in case, like Battle Belongs has 9 guitar parts. That's great. Thank you, Phil Wickham. And then we have our MIDI tracks here, and then we have extra. So what is extra? Extra is bass, acoustic 2. Usually I put those in there just in case. I'll never forget, 2 years ago I was in Albania, and it was either 2 or 3 years ago, and it might have been 3 because David Ramirez called me and said, "Hey, Jared's not here." And I said, "Oh, well." He said, "Can we put the bass track in?" I said, "We can't because I didn't put it in there." So ever since that moment, 3 years ago, I've always put bass tracks in just in case the bass player or acoustic player, you never know, doesn't show up. It doesn't mean we necessarily use it. It's just there just in case. I pretty much put every track in our template except for drums. Because if you have to track drums in a song, you might as well just go acoustic, in my opinion, because that's to the point where it's just like you're truly just playing with the track, and it's pointless. Anyway, and then the lights here, these are all MIDI. They're used for only MIDIs. And so I'll explain those here in a minute. I mainly just use these things right here, these numbers. So I'll explain that here. I'll explain that right now. So when a number is lit up yellow, that means it's on. So it's on, it's live. When you turn the color off, it's now muted. So think of it as like the light is on, the light is off. So like when you turn on a room, you turn the light off in the room. When the light is on, it's live. When the light is off, it's muted. So just for example, and I have these, so if you can look on the screen right here, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47. On our drum pad, you might have seen it. It's got it. Sometimes the lights come on. I don't know if you've seen that. Those numbers. So if I turn this off, number 1 will go off. If I turn this one off, number 2 will go off, and vice versa. So it lets our drummer know, whoever is running tracks know, those are where the tracks are. I do that for Converge. I do that for, many different things who uses that controller. So anyway, any questions so far? Everything makes sense? Just explaining the template and what's around. Cool. One other thing too, right here in the top left corner. So you got a couple different things. Some things that I just want to point out is right here, the 71, that's your BPM. So if I click this guy right here, you're going to see it change. So look right here. You can see that. Look right there. And when I click Battle Belongs, you're going to see it change to 81. You see it? So because in the master channel, I've told it when it triggers that channel, it's going to go to 81. So that's why it's so important in the master channel. You want to get your tempos or your BPMs correct, because again, if you have the wrong one, it's not going to line up at all. So I'll just double stop that. So we got our tempo here. We got our time signature, so it's an 8/8, and I'll explain why it's an 8/8 here in a minute. And then we got our click. So right now our click is what? Is it on or off? It is off. So remember, light on is on, light off is off. So if you're not hearing click one Sunday, because usually we use the Ableton click for most stuff, if you're not hearing it, it's probably because it's off. So light on, light off. So right now it's on, and you'll probably hear it. There you go. It's off. It's on. So does that make sense? So, so that's kind of our template. There's some audio ins and outs. I can kind of explain it very briefly. This is more for troubleshoot purposes. So over here in the bottom right, it's your master out. Your master out represents your tracks. So your tracks alone. So right now we run 4 outs. We run 1, 2, 3, and 4. We run our tracks in 3 and 4. We run our click in 1, and we run our guide in 2. So if you follow along kind of along the tracks going down, you can see that says audio 2 out, and it says to number 2. So we're sending it to channel 2 on the interface right here. That's actually in front of me. You can't see it on the screen, but it's right here in front of me. We're sending that to number 2. The click, just in case we have something, we're sending that to 1. And then our tracks, they're routed to 3 and 4 because we do run stereo, and then so on and so on. So everything, all the other tracks go to 3 and 4. And then our cue out, some of you might not know what that is. Our cue out is your click. So it's your Ableton click. That's what cue out means. So where is your cue out going to go? That's what you're telling that. So that's number 1. That should always be 1. So in our template, just for kicks and giggles and for troubleshooting's sake, cue out should always be 1. Master out should always be 3 and 4. Any tracks going down, so again, you're in session view, so you're going down. Any track should be in 3 and 4. And then a click obviously is in 1, and your guide should always be in 2. Does that make sense? So yeah, so let's get started. So I have got some tracks from a couple weeks ago, August 1st. So this is the set that we've done. So we did Battle Belongs, God of the Promise, Good Grace, Resurrecting. And so I have all these here. I've pulled them from a flash drive. They've already been created, and so we'll get to creating here in a minute, but they've already been created. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Planning Center. I'm going to look for, you can look on Planning Center to see the BPMs and kind of stuff like that. When I drag tracks in, when I drag them in, all it's going to say on this folder is multi-tracks, because it's the folder that they go in. All the multi-tracks is in this certain folder that they come from. I relabel them to the song, the key, and the BPM. So I know what key, what BPM, and what song. It's important for, because when you don't have the flash drive with you, you don't really know. Or if you don't have Planning Center up and ready, you don't really know. So for this case, I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to pull that back up here. And I'm going to start with my master list, because that's the very first thing I want to do. And I want to do the key, the name, BPM, and the time signature. So if you're on a Mac, you're going to do Command R. You're going to click on the one you want, Command R. It's going to light up black. We're going to start with God of the Promise. So I'm going to do the key first. So that's in B, space, dash, space, God of the Promise. Then I'm going to do space, and I'm going to do the BPM, and it's in 74. Then I'm going to hit space, and I got to make sure I type capital B, capital P, capital M, because it tells the computer that it's just not a random number, it's the actual BPMs. And then does anyone know if it's in 4/4 or 6/8?
6/8.
I believe God of the Promise is in 4/4.
1, 2, 3,
4. So here I'm going to explain a little bit. So you would put 4/4, but I don't usually pick 4/4. Does anybody know why? In this case, for this song, does anybody know why instead of 4/4, I'm going to put 8/8?
Does it have to do it when we come in?
No, good thought, but I like where you're thinking. So the reason why I put it in 8/8 and not 4/4, I'm going to go ahead and change it as I talk, is because anything under 99 and it's in 4/4, it's going to sound really slow in your ears. So for a song like God of the Promise, let me show you the difference right here, right quick. So this is God of the Promise in 4/4. You see what I'm saying? Now here's an 8/8. And we usually do it in 8/8, anything under 100. So you're gonna 1, 2, 3, 4. It makes it not sound so drag. It doesn't drag. Does that make sense? So it's very important if you're building clicks, if you see clicks, that anything is under 99 and below, I always put it in 8/8. If it's in 6/8, I usually just keep it in 6/8. If it's 74 and it's 6/8, I just keep it in 6/8. I only change it if it's a 4/4 time signature and it's under 100. Does that make sense? So we'll continue with our set. I'll click on Battle Belongs. I'll do Command R. That's already pretty much set. So what I'm going to do to go to the next one, instead of clicking out and clicking in, I'm going to hit Tab, and it's going to automatically go to the one underneath. So that's pretty important to know. And so we're going to keep going with our set. We're going to be looking at Playing Center. Resurrecting is the next song. So we're going to do the key, D flat, space, dash, space. Resurrecting, space. The BPM is 148. And then you type BPM, space, and we're going to do 4/4. Or is it in 6/8? Does anybody know?
Intro. 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's in 4/4. So we're going to do 4/4 because it's above 100. Again, let me show you what it sounds like. So this is 4/4. And then this is 8/8. This is going to sound nuts. Okay? So some people might like this, but when it's 148 BPMs already, I just don't roll that way. So it just kind of sounds a little too crazy. And the song will sound very rushed compared to 74, if that makes all sense. So I'm going to do Command R to click it. I already got Resurrecting. I'm going to hit Tab to go to the next key or next song. It's Good Grace, so it's an A, space slash dash, Good Grace, space, and then the BPM is 71 BPM, and I believe this is an 8/8 as well, or 4/4, but we're going to put it in 8/8. So now I've built my set. My set is complete in Ableton. Now the last thing to do is to bring in the tracks, and this is going to be the most easiest part of the whole thing. So any of you can build a track set based on how we run tracks here at Riverpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up all my groups except for lights. So I'm going to expand that, and except for pads. I'm not going to do that, and I'll get to that here in a minute. So I'm going to go to my folder where it's on my computer. It's very important that your folder is on your computer, not in a flash drive, not on a USB, anything like that. It makes sure your tracks, where your folder is on your computer. And I'll explain that in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my first song, so God of the Promise. I'm going to click on it. So now you see that it's the whole thing, the whole timeline is lit up more of a light gray than a dark gray. So now you know where to drag your tracks are. So if you ever get lost, you just look for that light gray. And now you just look at the top of your group. So you have piano, keys 1, keys 2, keys 3. So now we're going to go back to our folder. We're going to click God of the Promise. And so some of your folders might have double the tracks. So you're going to have a WAV file, and then you're going to have a wave.asd file. What that ASD file means is that it's already been in Ableton and it doesn't have to load. Does that make sense? So let me explain. I'm going to get rid of this one. So I'm going to move to trash. I'm going to clear my trash just in case I want to continue. Okay, so I'm going to do the acoustic 2 first. So watch how it just automatically lights up. You ready? Boom. It's in there. Now watch the difference. Here's your AG. Oh, There was your AG. All right, here we go. Ready? It loads. And then watch right here. You see how that popped back up? So that tells you that it's already in Ableton. It's ready. It's loaded. It's good to go. It's got its Ableton file already. So the biggest thing is if you're working within a folder that already has Ableton files in it, you always still want to drag the wave file, not the wave.asd. Does that make sense? Always drag the wave file, not the wave file ASD. So, and also too, because it's like that, it can get very tricky on which ones you've already done and which ones you haven't already done. Because when you put a track file in there, that ASD file is going to pop up. And so for this instance, I don't really know what I've got in there, only by what I've already done. So I'm going to go straight down the list so I don't miss anything. So I'm going to start with bass. I'm going to go here. I don't do choir. I don't do click track because, again, the click track is pretty straightforward. It doesn't go all over the place. It doesn't change BPMs throughout the song, so we don't need to use it. We'll just use Ableton click. I don't put drums in there, and I start with EGs, and here we go. I'm going to do this a little pretty fast, as long as my computer cooperates. And you're just lining it up on that gray and putting them all in where they're supposed to go. So I'm going to go to Effects. I'm going to go to Guide, scroll all the way over. Your guide goes all the way to the left. Your keys. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. And so on. I'm going to go to my loop. MP3, I don't put in there. That's actually the song. And I'll explain that when we do creating tracks. Go to piano, synth bass. Now a lot of times there's synth bass that's heavy in songs, and some of the bass players are like, "Can you take the bass out of the tracks?" And I said the bass is out of the tracks because I never unmute. I never unmute unmute the bass because it's just in there just in case. It's just so sometimes you might have to turn that down depending on the song. So I've gone through this whole entire thing. Our entire song's in there. And just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to play it for you just so you can get a good understanding. You probably won't hear it, and I'd love to know if anybody knows the reason why.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Does anybody know why that these tracks are not
Verse.
playing?
1, 2, 3, 4.
They're not in the master out? Well, technically, this is kind of a trick question. So they're in the right master out, but am I plugged up to the interface? And those of you who are watching this later,
Chorus.
the answer is
1,
no.
2,
Those of you
3,
in the room,
4.
the answer is no. So here's the tricky thing. So when you're building tracks, and most of the time this interface is going to be downstairs plugged up, you're not going to be able to really hear your tracks. The only thing you're going to hear is your guide and your click. Does anybody know why? The reason why is because you're using your MacBook and it's going off of the 1 and the 2 on your MacBook, and it doesn't have a 3 and a 4. Now, here's what you can do, but here's what you have to do when you plug in the computer to use tracks. You can go down to your tracks group, okay? It's expanded. You're going to go down, and you're going to click this little 3 and 4, and you can click 1 and 2. Now, when you click 1 and 2, you cannot go back to 3 and 4 until you plug in your computer to the tracks. Does that make sense? Downstairs or wherever they're at. Because you're not plugged into the interface and it's not reading that there's a 3 and 4. It's only reading that's a 1 and 2. So for creating tracks purposes or templates, you can go to 1 and 2. For this case, so you can hear everything, I'm going to go to 1 and 2. But I'm going to make a mental note when I put this computer downstairs that when I plug it up, I'm going to have to switch it to 3 and 4. Because it's going to all come through your guide and click channel downstairs or wherever the tracks are, and it's going to sound super loud because everything's coming through 2 channels rather than 4. Does that make sense? So for this sake, I'm going to hit 1 and 2. Before I click it though, you could do this. You could go ahead and do all the rest of your songs, save it. Once you've saved it with Command S, you can then go and click. So I'm going to actually do that right now. So watch, you ready? So it's still on 3 and 4. I'm going to do Command S. It just saved. Now watch this. I'm going to go here and switch it to 1 and 2. And I'm going to undo that. I'm going to switch this to 1 and 2. And I'm going to switch this to 1 and 2, even though you can't hear it. And you got to switch your master out to 1 and 2 as well. So that's 4 different things that you have to switch. Now, watch this.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So now you hear your tracks. But again, that's me checking the tracks. Now say I've already saved it. Now watch this. If I exit out, I don't save, and I go back into this folder, watch what happens. Let's see, well, at least let's hope. Look at that. It stayed on 3 and 4 because I saved it that way. So another bypass, if you are afraid that you're going to forget to switch it back to 3 and 4, you can put all of your tracks in for every song, save it, and then switch your master out and all of your groups that are tracks to 1 and 2. Listen to it. Make sure it's on rhythm. Make sure it's on time. If you need to raise anything, you can do that. And then if you don't make any changes and everything's good, you just close it out and don't save, and it's already set for Sunday morning and ready to go. Does that make sense? So anyway, I'm going to continue, and we're going to go back to our folder. Looks like we have our folder right here. And Battle Belongs, again, I have already Ableton tracks. I'm going to go ahead and do this. And again, the more and more you do tracks, the more you just kind of realize you know where to pull things in. Because once you get that first group in there, you just pull things right underneath it. And it's under that same timeline because your master is telling you that everything is from left to right and not up and down. So again, Battle Belongs has 9 guitar parts. Do not know why that song has 9 guitar parts. But you know what? Phil Wickham is a great guy. He can write some good stuff. And I'm not complaining. So now, I will say there are some audio tracks in here that are listed that you might not ever use. And so, for example, I have these O's here, and I have this tambourine thing. I barely use that tambourine audio track. So I just put the O's in the tambourine track for now because I see, 1, that my song doesn't have a tambourine track, and 2, I need somewhere for that to go. So... and I won't do the voice chop. Then I'll move on to my next song. Again, I already have all of the WAV files there, so we're just going to do this as quick as possible for time's sake. Again, I don't have a cello, but I just put it in key 7 because it looks like a great place for it to go. As long as you put it in the right timeline, the right master, you should be good to go. So all these are in there. Get to the bottom. Guide. Keys 1. Keys 2. And what's great is that the Ableton files are already in here, so it's not loading. It's already loaded. You don't have to wait on loading stuff, because if this was one huge project that hasn't been done before, Just imagine all these tracks just loading all at once. It would take a long time. And look, this song has a little tambourine, so I'm gonna put it right there. Good Grace, last song. Again, putting the acoustic and the bass in there, just in case Jared decides not to show up again. Number 2, number 3, going to the guide. Keys 1, keys 2, keys 3, keys 4, and if this was a Young and Free song, it'd be like keys 13. So I have done those before, and that's nuts. And I'll show you how to create another audio track just in case after I get these plugged in. Piano and synth bass and effects, and that's it. Okay, so I've gotten all my tracks in there. I closed that out. I'm completely done with that folder, but I'm not done with my template. So again, let's say you're on a Young and Free song and you need another keys. I have 8 key channels right here, so you need another key. So you're gonna click on the last key channel right here, and you're gonna do Command T. So Command T on a Mac is an extra audio channel, and it's going to come up as audio 13 because that's the audio number that it's from left to right. It's counting from left to right. It's just putting another audio in between another audio channel, so it's labeling it as number 13. As soon as you put one in there, it will automatically label it at the very top of what that key of what that is. So if you put a mandolin or whatever, it will relabel at the top mandolin, so whatever. But we don't want it. I'm going to delete it, and we're done. So we are almost done with our tracks for Sunday. I'm going to minimize all of these, and I'm going to do a quick save. So Command S, and then I'm going to go to my outs, and I'm just going to go to 1 and 2, and I'm going to double check these because hopefully I have the right tempos and planning center. If not, I'm about to find out.
1, 2.
Click's not on.
4.
Now click is. I just listen for a couple seconds because usually you can tell right off the bat if something's off.
2,
This one's good, so I'm going to go right to the next one.
2, 3, 4.
That one's good. Go to the next
Intro.
one.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So if you notice the other two, how loud they were, and compared to this one, is kind of very soft. I know the dynamics of the song is a little different, but at the same
Intro.
time,
1,
I'm
2,
looking at
3,
this
4.
bar right here. So I want this bar to be the same across the board. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this song, and I'm going to expand it, and I'm going to click on something, and if you click on the track, you can see the timeline down here of each track. So this is where kind of like Logic comes in or something if you're used to that. So we're in session view, but you can see the arrangement view down below on one single track. So what I want to do is I want to go to the loudest part of the song. So I'm going to try to find that. So I can kind of see like right here maybe it gets loud, or maybe like right here it's going to get loud. So I'm going to click on the first number up here, and I'm going to show you how to scan. This is kind of important if you're in rehearsal, if you want to run by something really quick, and you want to go back to a certain thing. So I'm going to click on this first number, and I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to scroll up. So that's going to take a little practicing to do, but I'm going to click, and I'm going to scroll up. You see how that's scrolling?
Bridge. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So now I'm actually, you see that little line that tells me where I'm at? So again, I want to go to a loud part, so I'm going to click, and it's scanning for me.
2, 3, 4. Build it up.
Looks like I missed the part right here.
4.
So this is probably my loudest part of the song, I'm assuming,
Verse
which didn't
1.
get that loud. Right here. Here we go. So you see my bar right here? It's not up where I want it. I usually have it between this guy and this guy, so I want it right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click here,
4.
I'm gonna double click, and I'm gonna go to this guy right here,
Verse.
dB.
1, 2,
So the
3,
dB is the
4.
decibel level. And so instead of, you can easily, there's two different ways to do this. You can easily go to this little arrow right here, and you can go up. That easily took your track volume up by 6 dBs. If you go back down, you can see this number on the bottom left go down.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's back even.
Build it
But
up.
what I want is
2,
all of
3,
those
4.
tracks to go up. So I'm gonna click on this, my group as a track, and I'm gonna go down here to dB, and it's gonna light up dark gray. And I want that volume
Chorus.
to go in
1,
between
2,
that play
3,
button
4.
and that second knob. So right now, it's pretty loud in the song. So I'm gonna go up by 3 and hit enter. It raised just a little bit. Now, because I haven't clicked out of it, it's still in this click. It's still right here. I'm gonna hit another number. Ready? I'm gonna go 6. See how it changes? I'm gonna hit enter.
All in, bridge.
So it's
1,
kind of
2,
there.
3, 4.
I'm gonna do it one more time. I'm gonna go one more by 7. And it's kind of right there. I might do 8. So it's right in those middle. That's where I want it. So now that I have it, what's very important is you want to click out. So click to an empty space. Ready? And now I've clicked out. Here's the reason why. If you haven't clicked out and you click another number or you click something else, it's going to change that number that you just did and it won't save it. Because until you click out of that box, it will disappear if you hit another number. Does that make sense? So now my first 3 songs are pretty even because the first 2 are hitting that middle and second bar, and now my third one on its loudest point is hitting in between that first and second bar. So now I'm gonna check my last song, which is
1, 2.
nothing in the
3,
beginning of this track because
4.
it's just acoustic, and we don't have the acoustic tracks in here. Again, if I go here, this is a perfect example of unmuting the extra stuff in this song. So this is my
1,
groups,
2, 3.
and as you can
4.
see, the acoustic is what? Is it on or off? It's off. It's off. The light is on, remember, and the gray is off. So I'm gonna hit the acoustic on. Now what happened? You still don't hear it. Does anybody know why?
Down chorus. 1.
For
2,
video's sake,
3.
I'm gonna save you
4.
some time. Remember, it's in a group, and this group is muted. So even if you unmute the channel itself, the group has to be unmuted. So ready? So now you can hear it. So now, again, just like the song, last song, I'm gonna go to try to find my loudest point. And I think this song is that,
2,
might be right here.
3, 4.
And actually, there it is. So, as we can see, it's almost there. So again, I'm gonna click the group tracks as a whole. I'm gonna go down to dB. I'm gonna go up 3 at a time. Almost there. I'm gonna go up 6.
Breakdown. Instrumental. 1, 2,
All right, that's there.
4.
So now my tracks are pretty even. I'm good to go. And so the last thing I'm gonna do, one, because I made changes, I cannot exit out. I have to save now. So now I have to make a mental note to make sure when I plug my tracks in, my computer tracks in, that I switch the audio to 3 and 4 when I switch it in. Does that make sense? Because I made adjustments. If I didn't make any adjustments, I could just close it out and it's ready to go. But because I made adjustments, I have to make a mental note now to switch those back to 3 and 4. But the last thing I'm going to do, this is the last thing you do, and then your tracks are completely done, is you're going to go to File, you're going to go to Collect All and Save. Now what that's going to do, it's going to take all of your tracks that were in your folder, and it's going to collect it all and put it into one Ableton file for you to put it anywhere you want. So now, let's say you create this template and you're doing one for youth, or you're doing one for Converge, or you're doing one for children's, whatever it may be. Now, all you have to do is put the Ableton file on a USB and not your tracks folder. because what it's doing is it's collecting all of where you pulled it from and it's putting it into one place. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go to File, Collect All, and Save, and you're going to see it do some little exporting. It's going to ask you some questions. Just for time's sake and for simplicity, you're just going to make sure it says yes, 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 and no. Okay? And then you're going to hit OK. And then now it's collecting all of that stuff, all of those different tracks, and it's putting it in one folder. And when that thing goes away, it's done. So now when I exit out of this, it's already saved. It's ready to go. So usually when you take a folder and you put it into another folder, and then you open up that file again after you've deleted the folder that you've taken the tracks into, what happens? It's no longer there, right? But now I can take this folder, August 1st folder, and I can say, see you later, and I can open up this tracks folder, and I can double click tracks template, and it's going to open up Ableton, and all my tracks are going to be there. So, one other thing that you might want to do, and then we're going to end this video and go to the next thing. But one other thing that you might want to do, instead of saving over your template, you might want to save a separate thing so you still have your template for other stuff. So in that case, I'm going to go to File, Save Live, Set As, and I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm just going to label it Sunday, August, can't spell August 1st, and I'm going to hit Save, and now it's saved. And just in case, I'm going to go to Collect All and Save, and it's going to collect everything, put it in that folder for me, and I'm going to be good to go. And the only thing I have to do is switch my master out and all my tracks out to 3 and 4 when I plug it in, and I'm good to go. And now, instead of messing and tampering with my tracks template, I now have 2 folders here. One's my Sunday and one's my template, and I'm good to go. Any questions? I know that's a lot of information all at once. It's very simple, especially if you get hands-on, especially if you practice this. It's very simple to create templates for Sunday morning.
So where are you getting all? I know you said you're getting them from multi-tracks. Do you keep everything in a like? Do you have a big just like hard drive full of songs and stuff like that?
Yeah. So everything we've ever done, I have it in a hard drive with every key that you can possibly think of, unless it's in a weird key. But I have almost every key, and it's all there, and some are already made to how we do it, and some are not. Okay. And we can talk about that here in a minute. But that's it for this session. This is how we create tracks for Sunday morning. Hope you've learned something, and always reach out if you have any questions.